Hey, what's going on, everyone? This is, I think this is going to be a bit of a different type of episode here. I'm not going to, I don't know if I'm going to be doing anything, but outside of talking. But um, let's see here. What I want to talk about: course creation. I went and looked at some GPTs, and there are a bunch of GPTs popping up, and you kind of know this because if you're on YouTube and content creation or anything like that, if you're around it long enough, you know everyone has a course, and obviously the next thing you know is automating your courses. That was around for a little bit anyway, automating your courses and stuff. But as someone who does this for a living, my full-time job, um, my full-time title is training and communication specialist. So I design training for a living. I facilitate training. I design um, different, I guess, applications and things for the marketing, for sales. So in doing this, I do know that, and I've been doing it for a long time, that you don't just create a course. So today I did a talk with the Learning Guild, and I went through this process. And if you guys were around the other night, I did this presentation. It sucked, and I revamped it. So I revamped it and redid it, and it got good feedback because the idea of this, and I kind of want to go fast through this. I will do this again at some point, but I kind of want to go through fast for this philosophy because I know with the advent of GPTs and APIs and stuff like that, that this course creation craze is going to go crazy. And I want to kind of take it from a perspective of someone who create courses in a corporate and industrial setting, and how we think about creating courses versus how on YouTube they go about telling you how to create a course. So I want to kind of look at this thing. So let's take a look here and kind of see what we got here. So this is nothing. This is nothing. And part of my process is this: for if you're a, and today I was talking to instructional designers, but if you are a course creator or instructional designer and you're building for users, generating a course in AI is not the end goal. The end goal actually is, how do you build applications to help your workflow? And then how do you build applications to help your student? Because for the longest time, learning has been up in some LMS somewhere, and it's been, you sit down at a desk and you click, click, click your way through. At the end, you take a quiz, and then that gets sent in and say you completed the course and now you've learned something. We all know you haven't learned a thing, because most of us, we're sitting through those compliance training. We're just get to the end. There's a funny video out there where the dog is clicking through the training, then realizes at the end can't answer any quizzes. We all do that. Even as even I do that. And so when you think about how we create courses, you're going to have to design in a way that gives the learner agency. This is this really is the the goal, right? You give the learner agency. So we can do that easier now with all of these tools. And I think that's the fundamental thing. Is it's not so much as like you go in there and I create one prompt and all of a sudden I get a course. That's not how we create courses. That's not how we ever create a course, and we will never create a course that way. So this is the idea of, how do you go from element LMS, learning management, custom instructions, generating the content, and getting to GPTs. Because the thing is, it's like at the GPT level and really at the assistant API level is where you can begin to take that information and that content and that capability off of OpenAI platform and put it into your own. And once it's in your own, now you give your users agency. This is the goal. Okay. Now, this next part, I have a philosophy. This is my framework. This is how I think of AI. You ideate, you direct, you enhance, you assess. And this is not a linear loop. This is not linear. It's like you're all over the place with this. And so this is kind of how I think about AI. I don't think about it replacing me. I don't think about it, replacing other people. I think about it as I have an idea and I have to deliver something. I need to narrow the gap between that time. That time it takes from idea to delivery, we're going to use AI to narrow that time. Okay, we're going to shorten that time. That's what I think of AI. So, ideating, of course, coming up with the ideas, but there's a process. Direct. For those of us who are in the instructional design field, we know that we have tools that help us direct. And for everyone else, if you're not in an instructional designer, you don't know about the learning strategies and things like that. But that's the thing that comes about, though. So that's something, right? So ideating. There are a lot of buzzwords out there. I like David Shapiro's YouTube channel. He talks a lot about AGI, agent swarms, um, SPRs, and all of those different ideas about the language models, how they work and how they're structured and how you can get more out of them. But there's one phrase that's really come to the forefront, and it is no, and we'll get to it. Okay, so this is the phrase that came to the forefront. This this right here, system one thinking, latent space activation. There's actually a YouTube channel called latent space. System one thinking, the easy way, top of mind. If say a word, what's at the top? What's the first thing that comes to mind? Um, is kind of like one of those things. My car didn't start. Well, why? The battery. Okay. This is those type of things. The first things we check. It's the top of mind, and that's what system one thinking is. And the language models, they have the same thing. They have this vector, and we talk about 3D vector for the robots. This right hand rule, right? X, Y, and Z. Well, what is the distance between this XYZ um, dimension and this XYZ dimension? What's the distance between that? And what we're doing is that we have a word and then there's another word associated with it. There's the distance. Okay. Um, and then, but we're thinking on a three-dimensional plane, but that's not how language works. And so how do we then not be in this structure here? And that's what the latent space is. The latent space is all of this because there's all of these connections to this word that we're not seeing because we're here. And so that's what the latent space is. So latent space activation is how do you activate this space? How do you get here? And it's simply if I have X, Y, and Z, I can add T. So now I added T, and now it's changed. If I look, I now can go in T. But what if I add T and TP? So I got X, Y, Z, T, and TP. Now I've extended that space that I can travel, the connections that I can make. But This is more for developers. For the average user, you have to think of it like this. You simply have to think of it in a way that you have to ask better questions. Now, we all know when it comes to AI that if you, it's one thing to ask questions, but it's another thing. But we know asking good questions, being specific, are is the main thing. Okay, so that is that's one of those things. So I went to ChatGPT and I asked a simple question. I'm visiting Chicago next month. What attractions should I see? And if we look at this, I guess I should. Let me make this bigger. I think we can make this bigger. I don't know which monitor is going to show up. Okay, yeah, we can make it bigger. All right, so this is basically it. It is for most of us. This is how we deal with this. How we deal with latent space. It is asking different questions. So when it comes to a trip to Chicago, if you ask most Chicagoans, this is what they'll give you. They'll give you these. They give you these things here, these ideas, and these are good ideas. This is the typical Chicago visit, right? The Art Museum, Millennium Park, Navy Pier, Willis Tower. I mean, typical. But what if we needed to get out of that? Because what you'll notice with this is that if you go to Millennium Park, you can walk to all of these places. They're all within walking distance of one another. They're all in what we consider downtown Chicago. And we can get out of downtown Chicago just by simply saying, let's look at interesting things in neighborhoods. So we don't really consider downtown a neighborhood. So once you say neighborhoods, now that takes you out of downtown. Okay. And now we are somewhere else. And now you get these different things, interesting things to do in neighborhoods. So Wicker Park, that the 606 trail, great. I mean, great idea, right? If you've been to New York City and walked on their road trail, and I think Paris has one as well, the 606 trail is an old train track that they turned into a walking park. Lincoln Park, everyone knows about Lincoln Park Zoo, but what about Peggy Notebert's Nature Museum? No one would ever tell you about that. No one ever would even bring it up. So having the AI bring that thing up, that place, is asking it different questions. And Chinatown, of course, we all love Chinatown, but exploring Chinatown, good food, good restaurants. I think this is what we're talking about when we say that latent space activation is for us non-developers, people who don't have to deal with the intricacies of language models. The latent space is creative questions, getting to more creative questions, being specific, but getting to more creative questions. Okay. So my next thing was directing. Now, online, there are a lot of course creators, but again, for those of us who create, who design learning for a living, who studied instructional design, who have this depth of evidence based learning theory behind us, right? Um, we we're not just creating courses because we're doing certain things. So when we talk about directing, what we're saying is that this this model, and that we can direct it. We have a language, we have ChatGPT, but we can direct it so it doesn't hallucinate. And when I presented this, I I didn't present this for people to look at and read, but just to get an idea how much power is behind you when you start talking about creating courses and creating learning design and learning experiences. Look at how much learning theories, learning strategies, modalities that you have to draw upon. All right. And again, don't have to read this, but there's a lot there. And I cut this down, right? So I cut this down. So that's the idea. And I think what I would say on, and let me go to the large here. YouTube has this thing about it where is easy money, short money, quick money, right? Um, earn $2,600 a day using AI. Earn $40,000 a month using with Mid Journey creating art. That is that is YouTube, and that's how they're selling AI. And I don't think it's that. I don't believe we are that's what's going to be what AI becomes. I think AI is going to become just like your mobile device. The mobile device changed things, but now it's pretty much ubiquitous, right? It's just connected to us. Um, AI is going to become the same thing. It's just going to be structurally there in the background, always running, and going to you're not going to be able to rig the system because I'm on different Facebook groups for Midjourney and AI art, and you can see the traffic start to go down. The interaction is going down. And why? Because there's a billion photos out there. We've created over a billion images. What do you do with them? What do you do with them? I see people now creating the image and putting their name on it and their logos and kind of cover it up and it's like what if I wanted to generate that? I would just grab it, throw it up in Dolly, describe this. Dolly prints out the description. Okay, great. I'm tweaking from there to get what I want. So I'm not I am a fan of AI, as you guys know. This is what I do, but I think my approach is a little different. I think I'm thinking differently about it. I'm thinking about how does it become a utility because eventually it will. It will become a utility. It will become this thing that just sits there on your computer, on your phone, and works. But it's going to be a utility, and so that's part of it. So for a course creator, getting back to my topic, course creators, um, custom instructions. Now, I'm a firm believer that custom instructions are the best part of ChatGPT. I'm a firm believer in that. It's the best part of ChatGPT. And why? Because you can direct it, you can give it some control, you have some agency over it. And I think custom instructions is it's funny what I find this interesting. I find this interesting what um OpenAI has done. And the interesting part of it is that they released GB 3.5. The 3.5 has gotten better. Then they released GPT 4. And then they went to custom instructions. And then they went to GPTs. Um, Dolly, Dolly, and then GPTs. And then they put it all together. So each step along the way, there's been this progression of creating an ecosystem. And I wrote a long time ago. I want to say a long time ago, but several months ago, I wrote that the winners of AI, and I kind of it's starting to pan out this way a little bit, that the winners of AI are those who can build ecosystems. That if I don't have to jump around. If I can get into a system and stay there, those that would be the people who win. And is why I thought Adobe was going to sell during with all of this because they have an ecosystem already. All they have to do is look at the ideas that are out there and pull it into their service. And OpenAI did that with all of the plugins. They saw the popular plugins, and they just created it. And so, if you're if you're a startup and you're trying to create a business or a service that is hell bent on that's really looking at the gap between what OpenAI offers and what's missing, if that's your business model, that business model is going to have a problem. Okay, you're going to have a problem. And I think the same thing um, with when you talk about agencies. When you talk about these AI agencies out there who were building automation and stuff like that, it is if you were selling generic AI tools and AI solutions, you're going to lose because if you're halfway decent with this, you can do it yourself. You don't have to pay that person. So you're going to have to build. If you're an AI agency, it's solutions, right? It's what the solution are you offering? You're a large and medium and company. You have a lot of different applications. You got a lot of different tools. If you're a manufacturer, even a small manufacturer, there's a lot of stuff going on that you could automate, but you can't. It's not generic. It's very specific. And so, if you are an AI agency who can get and deal with those specificities, you'll win even with ChatGPT and everything it does, because these GPTs are not going to handle those specific tasks. You're going to have to move that language model off of ChatGPT and into its own platform. So, course creators, if we get back to thinking about course creators, it is the same way. Generating a bunch of courses, generating a bunch of content it's not going to win. For those people who are out there with hey, generate 100 blogs a day, it's, it's not worth it. I mean, what is that? Just blogs that no one reads because we've seen what AI writes. I mean, you guys are looking at my channel, you see the stuff I produce with AI writing, and I'm tweaking it very little, but I'm tweaking it, and you know, just and I'm not even trying to make any money off of it. I'm just tweaking and having fun with it, experimenting. So you're going to have to find some solutions. So if you're a course creator, yes, AI is going to be able to write your course. But is it good? Does it solve the solution? Um, are you adding value to that learner? And you're not going to know that unless you go through the process. You can use AI to make that process faster, but in the end, delivering well thought out, well designed courses that gets to a solution, that's who's going to win. That's who's going to win. Okay. And this was the gist of what I talked about today was that as instructional designers, and I'm not talking to YouTube course creators. I'm talking to people who do corporate courses, university and colleges, schools. That's who the audience was today. It's that audience. So for them, they get this because most of them don't want to use AI because they're professionals at this. But you're going to have to learn how to use it because my talk today was rapid e-learning development, and what I showed today was in the most basic way it was is that I can use ChatGPT, take a couple of hours and get a quick prototype, which is pretty good. I can also do it in 5 minutes. So that same process, using a GPT, I did it in 5 minutes. And the custom instruction was the baseline for building out the GPT. So that's one of those things. So this was a case study. I'm not going to bore you guys with this stuff because this is kind of things that we go through when creating courses. We have models. Um, this here this was really about creating assets. Because now one of the things with e-learning is finding assets that look like the people we want to look like. For the longest time, and it's gotten better now, but diversity was not something that was part of learning assets. You could not find the black doctor, the Asian. Um, you couldn't find the Asian, the woman. The what if I wanted someone who had a job or something like that? All of that diversity was non-existent, and then AI comes along, and now you can. So really, just teaching people how to prompt this. Now, for all you mid-journey experts out there, I realize this is a very simple prompt, but that's the point for most of us in development space. We're not creating these works of art; we're creating assets. And even with this, I did not get into the consistent part of it because it was rapid e-learning development. And rapid e-learning development is get your idea out there to the stakeholders, to the developers, to the SMEs, let them see what's happening, get it back, and then you can kind of see where you're going with it if the feedback. So it's that kind of process that happens in the corporate world and in universities. So that was the idea about that rapid e-learning development. But it was just a couple of techniques. But for the people who were on who didn't understand the parameters of Midjourney, it was kind of one of those things of what is AR, what is style raw, and I did explain that. And if you don't know it, AR is the aspect ratio, and style raw really is Midjourney. You instructing Midjourney to follow your instructions more closely, right? So for those of us who know about stylizing and chaos and all of those parameters that this gets Midjourney to do whatever. That's what that is about. All right. So then I showed how to take those same prompts and simply just put in the background because sometimes you want the white background, and that's going to allow us to vectorize it, right? So it allows us to take that, go to some other application. I think vectorize.ai is one that kind of, you know, enlarge your image. But I mean, Midjourney with this 4K, um, you know, I think Midjourney can do 4K now, so you can do most of it in Midjourney and just simply go to Photoshop and remove the background, no problem. So, and this is one I don't know how many Midjourney artists use this, but permutations for for us, for learners and creating assets for e-learning design, permutations is a really, really great tool because we can generate a bunch of assets really fast. And the only thing I have to do is just, you know, I can upsize one of these, one of each, get the ones that look closer together. Now, you could go through the work. You you could go through the effort of trying to, get this character consistent. That wasn't the scope of this course. I have other videos on here that do this, but um, is that wasn't the scope of this work, though. All right. So continuation. And then I got to the point, so let's automate it. And then, you know, really just looking at um, how do you take this, all of the steps that I did, how do we automate it? So that was the thing. And let me see if I can have it in here so I can actually show, so we can kind of show what that process looks like um, in ChatGPT. So this was the brief. This was the storyboard, but I wanted it in a table. And then I just said, okay, give me in a table format. And one of the things here, you'll find that in instructional design, when you're creating a storyline, um, 508 compliance really is just saying, how accessible is it for people. Maybe some people really can't touch the screen, have a hard time reading it, colorblind, all of those things. So when you're designing learning, you have to take that into account of, like, what, how accessible is this learning to other people, and so that's part of the thing that you always take into account. All right, and then we get into the tree of thought. So mm, if you are if you are into AI, you've heard about the tree of thought and other things. And therein lies the thing about AI, right? There's so many things. Let me go back here to go back to here. So the tree of thought is another buzzword. Chain of thought is one. Um, but if you kind of look at all the other different buzzwords, memory GPT, I think, what was the other one? Sparse priming representation, sparse AGI, agent swarms, infinite memory, all of those things. But what it really comes down to at the end of the day is, did the content, did the out was the output any good? And I happen to like the tree of thought. It's basically my go-to way of doing this. And so for my stories, if you guys have looked at any of my gone through, watched the videos, any of my stories, I think it's um, the imaginary chronicles of imaginary tales of AI, something like that. I don't know. I completely forgot. But anyway, what I do with those stories when I'm writing a story, after it's done, what I do is that I then make an assessment based on some author. So if I write a blog post, right? If I get AI to write a blog post, and I may have to go through that, like how I write blog posts, because I don't do it the way most people would. I actually have AI act as Malcolm Gladwell and interview me. So I type everything. A ChatGPT is actually asking me questions, and I'm typing everything out. And then I will tell ChatGPT to go out and find some research to buffer or dispute what I said, and then give me a draft. And then once it has a draft, I go and finish off the writing. But again, it goes back to my concept of idea that ideates. Sometimes I come up with an idea for a blog post, sometimes not. Direct. I'm really telling it. I give it a thesis. This is what I want to write about, and this is what I believe. So I come up with the initial thesis. That's how I direct it. And enhancements. So that's what they're asking me the questions. And at the end, hey, Give me ask a few follow up questions, and then if it doesn't ask me the right question that I think it should have asked me, I would tell it. It's like, you didn't ask me this. I think this is an important question, but here's what I think about it. And I put it all in together, and then I tell it to write the rough draft, but I give it 5 or 6 blog posts that I've written in the past, so it knows my style, how it should write, and then it spits it out, and then I go through it and I make it mine. Okay, so this is the tree of thought, but the I'm rambling here. So typically, what I will do with mostly with the tree of thought is this. Let's say I write a story and I say, well, you know what? I want it to be on par that a Netflix executive would pick this up and turn it into a show. So that's my assessment. That is the criteria in which I'm measuring this story against. Okay. Is it House of Cards, Money Heist, Midnight Mass, um, The Fall of the House of Usher? Is it on par? Okay, with that? Would an executive look at this story and say, yes, it's on par with that? That's what I'm measuring it against. And ChatGPT is really, this is one of the best things about AI is that checking your work, it is really good at, and is really good at identifying. It can't be, it's not creative, but it's good at checking creativity. It can't write a really good story, but it can evaluate a story really well. It's a weird little thing about ChatGPT that Claude can write a good story. ChatGPT cannot, but ChatGPT can structure a story very well. It can evaluate a story very, very well. Claude goes off the rails sometimes, so you have to bring it in. But this is what I um, kind of what I do, and then overall thesis of why I'm doing this video. One, I just like to go live sometimes and just ramble on with my thoughts about this. But what are the key takeaways? We need some key takeaways here. One, I think the biggest takeaway is that we're moving out of a space where you're just generating content. That is generating content will become the, I guess, the low hanging fruit. Um, you know, it it just won't mean that generating images won't won't really mean much, right? Um, what does that image mean to a bigger idea? I think that's the idea. Um, Writing a bunch of blog posts, spitting out 200 SEO blog posts a day doesn't really mean much. I mean, I guess if you're just trying to generate some, if that's kind of your thing, doesn't really mean much. But what does it mean to write a blog post that somebody goes to and read? Is something like what Marvel is experiencing with the MCU. What does it mean to put all these superhero movies that disjointed and disconnected? People have lost interest. It's like I'm not really interested in MCU. I'm interested in stories. Give me good stories with good characters, and you're seeing that. And if the good story, the good character is part of the MCU, fine. But the driving force is good stories, good characters. Um, and I think the same thing with anyone who is out here saying, "Well, I want to really get good at mid journey." For what? Okay, if it's just a hobby and you just got some things going, then fine. I mean, I like it. It's cool, but for what? For what? Um, Creating courses. If you're going to create a course, and at some point I need to create a course and start selling it, but I'm only at what 413 subscribers, so I'm not even to the point where I'm checking my analytics on YouTube. I said I wouldn't check until I get to 100, 100 videos is when I would start checking my analytics, and I look at them a little bit, but for the most part, there's just not enough content there to do anything with, and so my focus is on just find your find what you want to talk about and where you can add value. That's kind of what I'm doing. So if I don't tell you to boop the like button, oh, I love that's Nate. That's Nate's thing to say. So so yeah, hit the like button and subscribe. If you don't hear me say that or anything like that, because I'm trying to work on the content. I'm just really trying to work on putting out something that has some value to it. And and so my key takeaways for this is that AI for everyone it is there's the idea and there's the delivery. Using AI to narrow the gap between idea and delivery. That time it takes to go from idea to the market. Use AI to shorten that time. Um, for anyone who's trying to wrap services around AI and GPT and all these other things, it is the value you offer to a customer is what they are going to care about. Um, you're going to saying you're an expert and building GPTs is not going to matter. There are going to be a million GPTs out there. There are thousands and thousands of AI tools out there. There are 10 that I really, really pay attention to. There are going to be 1,000 GPTs out there. How many of them are really robust enough to kind of move the needle, right? The ones that will say, here's a here's a customer base who has this problem. And it is what we say, what's on your whiteboard? Right? That's the key. What's on your whiteboard? When I walk up to that person and I want to know is just like, what do you go home at night worrying about as a business owner? You know, when you say these are my three biggest challenges on your whiteboard, what is it? Solve those problems. Solve those problems, and you will you will be successful with this. But for everyone else, generating content. I love writing with AI, but let's be real. I would never write with AI and just put it out there. It doesn't work that way. So that is my that's what I have for tonight. So it's 7 o'clock. It's after 7. I just wanted to kind of put that out there. This was the last slide, just to say, what are the tools that are out there that you should be thinking about as a course creator, not for everyone else, but as a course creator, these are some of the tools that you, you should be looking at and see where things are going. All right, so that's where I'm at. Just wanted to kind of come on and talk about that because I do stuff with Dolly and images, but an overall arching thought of what I'm doing here with this channel is today I gave this presentation and I thought, let me talk it out a little bit more because I think I find it interesting and I find the idea that we are in this space, we're in this space where generating content is now a is basically I'm trying to think of the word for it, but it will come to mind in a minute here. But a commodity. That's what it is. Bam, there it is. Commodity. Generating content will be is a commodity. All right. That's the thing. So if your idea is generating content, you are dealing with you're dealing in a market that really has one very little ROI, very little margins, and very little excitement. It's gonna it's gonna wave. So start building something, start building ideas, start building projects, start taking all of the content that you creating, all of these images, the writing, all of start building and moving up the chain, the AI chain. Okay. So that's what I encourage you guys to do. That's what I'll be doing. So I'll be creating some API tools and here and there, just kind of working on some things. And if you are a course creator, I would say that your holy grail is personalization agency. That's the holy grail of learning. If you can get there, if you can get there with AI, you will be in a good place. That's where you need to go. And that's what we're going to be thinking about all the time. And that's what we're going to start building upon. We're going to be building on those ideas of agency, learning, giving the learning full control over their learning journey. That's the key. All right. So that's enough. I am done. 45 minutes, as always. All right. Well, if you've made it this far, yes, subscribe and like the and give me a like. All right, we're out. I'm gonna create a thumbnail for this thing so it actually looks good in the tools. All right, peace out, folks. Done.